your friend indeed. You're having a bad day. Free your mind of the existential despair and bullshit. Take your time. See the universe that surrounds you. Slows define. You are it and it is you. You are it. You are it and it is you. You are it and it is you. You know it takes just walking outside. Have a ritual with you and the sun. Take off your shoes. You and the earth must dance sometimes. You forget you and the ancestors must talk sometimes. What? You shy away. You forget how to fly away. Not because they take the God out of here 500 years ago, you must bow. Nah, dog, don't let them break you. It's the fucking earth, dog. Don't let them shake you. Look up at the clouds and take a deep breath. Ah, this is how your mother make you. With strength and power. Nah, dog, don't let them break you. Nah, sister, don't let them break you. You are it and it is you. You are it and it is you. Let's go. So let's get to start it. Have my questions up. All right. Pleasant good afternoon. You hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Hi.
Yeah, what's up? What's up?
I'm good. You know, it's been a long week. It feels like 5 weeks in one.
Yeah, well,
Trying my best to survive the weekend.
You're an extremely busy person, huh? So I mean,
Listen, I need like a 3 days with like sleeping, like me just like sleeping, not being like waking up at all for 3 days. I need that.
Well, anything close to that is corpse, eh? That's like
Yes.
So as you seen, Ashley, where's the vibes? How's been 2020 into 2021? Because it's kind of like a real strange couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's strange in general, but these couple of years has been phenomenally strange.
Yeah, for sure. I like last year was it was a year by itself, you know. I feel like a lot of things like happened and surfaced that made me have to kind of go in myself and kind of figure out, Ashley, is this the way that you want to exist? And of course, you know, like different actions had to be taken to sort of like navigate that. And then well, this year started off hot and sweaty. The like what I need, I feel like I was telling a friend the other day, like this first quarter feels like training ground. And so if I can survive this first quarter without falling apart completely, I feel like there's absolutely nothing that can possibly make me lose my mind. This month has really been hard. February 1st, the first day of this month, I lost my eldest brother.
Hmm.
And swiftly after that, like so many things happened, like even with like Andrea's murder. And that entire week was just something else. Like, when you feel kind of scared and sad, like there's this kind of a heat. There's a heat that comes over your entire body. You feel it all in your neck, and it's just like you feel heavy and sluggish. Like
Hmm.
that's how this month has been feeling. And so it's been interesting to navigate, to really understand like my purpose and like what are the things that I see really making a difference and how I want that difference to look like. It's been a real interesting time.
Okay, well, condolences on the loss of your brother, firstly. And
Yeah.
so, for those who don't know, who watching and don't know who listening after, um, who is Ashlee Burnett? Um, what's your driving force? What makes you you know?
Yeah. Well, I would say I am a writer. Like first thing, I mean I don't write that often, but I feel like at my very core, I'd say I'm a writer. But like since like 2014, I've been like involved in like human rights work, through like arts, through performance arts and stuff, and then marrying that with activism. And I can't remember who's the person who I heard it from first, but art and activism making artivism, where you try to advocate for different things in a really palatable way, which happens to be art. And so like throughout the years, different things have really become like really really more apparent to me in
Mm-hmm.
understanding the kind of space that I really want to exist in, and that space is something that's really intersectional, and then figuring out how do I carve that space out without demanding other people to make the space for me. Because of course, like throughout that time there were different times I would have to like kind of push for certain things and then getting the pushback, for wanting those things to be different. And then last year, not last year, 2019 or 2020, it's the years are just so off, right? But yeah, last year, early last year, I had to really sit down and think to myself, what is it that I want? What is it that I see really contributing meaningfully to the space that I want to exist in, which is here in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. And so that's how, like Feminist came about, and really trying to like educate persons. So I would say primarily I'm a writer and an educator.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us a little more about what make you started being an activist. Like, I mean, you're young comparatively.
Yeah.
Um, probably just out of school. What makes you decide? Um, yeah, let me take on this
Yeah.
because it's a burden. It's a heavy load because I mean a lot of people feel empathy or sympathy for cases, but not everybody is built to
Yeah.
design or designed to take on that role now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put yourself out there. So what made you? What was the catalyst for doing that?
Yeah. So I would say so for my entire life, especially like when I started high school, there were things that I always questioned. I mean, given that I was super religious back then, so the things I questioned wasn't really in alignment to the things that I stand for now. So it's like when I think about my journey, it's an interesting one, a really interesting one. But I think it was 2013 I had my first seizure, right? And then 2014 and 2015 were some really chaotic years when it concerned like my health. And then having to, face like a lot of different types of oppression, because I mean, people don't know that epilepsy is actually like it's a disability, and an invisible disability. And I experienced so many types of like pushback throughout those 2 years. But in 2014 especially, I remember hearing like spoken word poems for the first time, and then even doing my own little research and realizing, wow, this is like a really powerful tool, because I mean, it's the art of persuasion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many like inequalities that I would have recognized, like through myself, through how I grew up, Um, and then in school, listening to how teachers would, speak about, because I went to all girls school, and the different types of, like, the gender stereotypes that were placed on us as young girls and young women, and in relation to men, and how that was. And I don't think I even had the language then. Actually, I didn't, to understand feminism, and that the things that I really wanted was just to be treated equally, to be seen as a human being first, anything
Mhm.
else after. And that really kind of sparked something in me. And so since, like, in 2014, in working with the organization I was with then, and going to protests, assisting with different types of research and writing and stuff like that, I think I didn't even know that was something considered as activism until, like, a while after. But those things, like being oppressed myself, seeing other people, looking on the news and realizing, wow, life is really crappy for some of us, and worse for some others, and figuring out, like, I really want to make a difference, and maybe this is how I do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, in there's a lot of I would say criticism, or people just don't understand the term or the word feminism. When you hear it, or some people when they hear it, they instantly get triggered, as this nagging voice,
Yeah.
this annoying thing that's come to change our the way we live, or the way we accustomed engaging in each other. Um, what do you say to these people who say, well, Western, or quote stuff like Western feminism, and that kind of thing, which is somehow different to. Well, I mean, there's I guess levels
Yeah.
to
They are.
to
Hmm.
where you know some
Hmm.
some women in certain parts of the world suffer different type
Yeah.
of oppression to
Hmm.
some in other countries. But what do you say to those people who have those critiques?
Hmm. I would say I understand. I understand completely, and I mean, everything that I might answer this evening might have a little tiny backstory to it, just for context.
No
There was a
problem. We
time.
have an hour on something. We have time.
Okay, great. There's a time where I actually did not call myself a feminist, because I was like, this thing, being man hating and real, like, off, you know. And I remembered some time ago, it's just like way before 2014, I had tweeted about, how can men be feminists? That doesn't make any sense. Right? And like, sometimes I think about past Ashlee and be like, wow, like, thank God for growth and for reading, and for being around people who try to make me better and the world better. But honestly, like, I know the word has been demonized a lot, because it's always a case of where those who, like, the negative responses and negative thoughts are always the ones that are the loudest. And it's always easier for us as human beings to believe the negative thing, because it's easier. It's like, it's better. It makes better conversation. It makes better commentary. But feminism at its core is really taking into consideration all types of persons, regardless of their backgrounds, their differences, their beliefs, everything like that, and figuring out what is it that they need, and then providing those needs. And so it's more about, so it's equality and equity. And I know people think, no, it has to be either or. But there's this thing that maybe somebody has said it before, because I don't think any thought is a new thought. But there was this thing I was thinking about some time ago, that in order for us to achieve equity, we have to, like, first see everyone as equal, as human beings. And so from the time you come into the world, before you were even formed, human beings are equal. They're all equal. But of course, when you come into the world and you are born into various families, into a different race, ethnicity, background, then you have a different kind of challenge, right? And
Mhm.
so people with a lower socioeconomic status and all of that, and being born into a different country that's one of the lower developing countries. And so in that, now you have to assess it and see, I won't give somebody who has 10 pencils a pencil if somebody else has zero. I won't give them the same amount of pencils. I would now equitably distribute it. So maybe if I have 12 pencils, I would give somebody 11 pencils and give the person with 11 one. well, 10-1, so that the both of them have 11 pencils at the end of the day. And so it really applies a gender lens. And I know that's a really, like, when you hit gender lens, what's a gender lens, right? It's taking into consideration the needs of everyone, right? And so it's not looking at, women in isolation. It's looking at it in the larger scope of everything and figuring out, okay, what are the needs and how do I help there? And so it's a lot of, and I'm still learning. There's a lot of things that I still don't know, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, what does it even mean, and trying my best to find my way. And so the last point on that, there are different types of feminism, unfortunately, because it being in the Western world, that type of white feminism that doesn't take into consideration the Caribbean experience. And so there's Caribbean feminism, which is completely homegrown, and so it's not a kind of feminism that is like one size fits all. It is, of course, tailored to suit the country. And so, for example, here in the Caribbean, and let's zero in on Trinidad and Tobago, I'm pretty sure that all of our grandmothers, or at least 80% of them, had to work and still take care of the home, or at least somebody. They were always working, right? They weren't to say had to stay home, and they were doing everything, right? And in some cases, being the breadwinner and the homemaker, right? While the man is just there at home. And so it's an interesting thing. But I believe that all feminisms, whatever brand of feminism that people carry, should be intersectional. Intersectional is taken into
Or
consideration
there
all
should be
identities.
some
Yes,
core
the
things
core
that
thing,
are center
yeah,
of
of it, yeah.
yeah.
And so you can't say, wait, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But no, but don't you think that's for a society that's, even though we have grown so much from let's say the 60s to now, there are still a lot of people that won't get all that you're saying there, or wouldn't
Yeah.
understand it. And even the layman on the man on the street wouldn't understand you. You know, they grew up a certain way and they grew up knowing it. Hey, this is how things are. Do we expect everybody to get it at the same time, or that's where policy change is needed? Because
Right.
as much as you say, you're still learning. Me, who's not actively, like say, I'm associated with a lot of people who are within the community and understand. So I kind of now know certain things differently from 5 years ago. That's why you cringe at some of the stuff that you tweeted in 2014. You could imagine some of the stuff that I was thinking, and or you supposed on Facebook on like 2010 or whatever.
Yeah.
We all grow. Humans grow. Right? Being growing, we kind of dead now. In a sense, that's how
Very true.
the concept is. So shouldn't have like a margin for error, in a sense that
Yeah.
people, there should be some margin error, or how do we navigate the space with that margin of error? Because sometimes I always wonder who we talking to now. I always have to wonder who we talking to when we have these talks, or we have campaigns.
Yeah.
Who are we trying to reach?
Yeah.
So
That's something that I think about a lot. Because a lot of things happen kind of in isolation. There's like there are rural communities who, like, in some spaces that don't have access to internet, and so the kind of work that some of us do, it's for them, but they don't get to access it. And so I feel like, and it's a real hard thing, because we're in a pandemic and it really limits your reach, because you can't just go and say, hey, I'm gonna go down in a community and have a little talk in a community center. It's more difficult than that now. But I believe there is like margin for error, but that error has to be something that whoever commits the error has to be open to wanting to learn more. Because I feel like everyone can be educated, but education is not a one-way street. like people could say, hey, I want to help educate, but then the persons who are being educated have to want to be educated, or at least want to that. And so I feel a lot of it too depends on the approach of the educator. And so that's something that I, like, every day I try to be like, Ashlee, have some kind of patience, right? And this is not to say, like, I know some people say things, it's not for women to educate men or whatever. But I feel like it's the duty of someone who has the knowledge to share that knowledge. Because at the end of the day, we weren't all born with the knowledge. I know that for sure. Like, some things, like, I know that if it wasn't for like a friend to say, hey, read this article, or for me to sit down in a space and listen to something, and I would not have known anything. And so, I mean, this is not to, I mean, there are people who really just don't want to learn, and it kind of is heartbreaking because it's like you don't want to leave anybody behind, but it has to be something people want to do. But a good way to bridge that, because this line that Rashot is saying, boy, meaning that you can't bend the old tree. I think he said that. He said that explicitly.
But I kind of get the point you're trying to make.
Yeah.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks, pretty much. And there's a lot of there is a lot of pushback from a lot of people, men, women. I've seen women defend some things that really shouldn't. I mean, they have this mindset, but I think my critique is that there haven't been a lot of back and forth.
Right.
They had to talk about gender equity and stuff, so they just listen because they don't want to be attacked. You have this thing that you don't want to engage feminists because it's going to be a barrage of attack on it. And I think there should be some level of discourse, and there should be some level of patience on both sides.
Yeah.
And willing to listen, that kind of thing. In regards to, let's say, we were talking before we came on air about this last case of sexual assault, right? Now, with regards to heteronormative engagement, right? There was a time where, men will engage women. They might see a sign, or they might assume they see a sign and decide, okay, let me try a thing. Right? So you make a move where you try to make a move, and the person really give back a respond favorably. So now, to me, the point is, okay, she said no, or that's time to break. That's time to, probably say sorry or whatever, and you move on. And as you said earlier, that you said some things in 2014. Cases that, let's say, something like that happened in 2010, and somebody say now in 2021 that John chatting on me. How are we now supposed to engage in this space? There's a lot of people not being sure how to engage in heteronormative engage. Well, man or woman.
Yeah.
It's a weird time. I know now that I'm probably know how to approach women, how not to approach women, and how I should. So the catcalling and stuff like that,
Yeah.
Somebody break it down to me some years ago that you're not the only one that she hears that from when she comes out the door. So people not thinking, okay, she heard that from about the fifth guy coming down the road. So it's not really right to engage women in that way. It's weird, and it's creepy, and it's predatory.
Yeah.
But how do you explain to the people that thinking, hey, this is how we learn to engage women? So I mean, how do we?
Yeah.
try a thing safely.
Mm-hmm.
But not try a thing. Do women now have to engage with men more? Because somebody stated that the other day. Do the rules of engagement have to change?
So the rules of engagement should be
And,
one
and this
that is
and it's not exclusive to to get
to
straight
Quefu.
people.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, this it happens in
Yeah, it happens every like listen, yeah, it
yeah.
does. So I don't think it's per se like, you know, the rules of engagement have to change. I feel like what the rules of engagement should be is like consent on all like sides. And so if you are interested in someone, you share that respectfully. And there's a way to go about it, which I'm sure it's you know, based on everyone's discretion, but you do it respectfully. And then if you get current, you stop. If you don't, right? You if you get current, okay, because that's like they and current meaning it has to be explicitly stated. It can't be, well, I assume maybe they like me because they put extra Y's at the end of hey, you know, you know, like it has to be explicit, you know,
Mhm.
because then it ends up with you now imposing yourself on them. And a lot of times too, and I have experienced that where like being coerced, and so you don't want something, but
Mhm.
somebody is like, you know, no, it goes fine. Like somebody cannot tell me that something is fine if I don't think it's fine. But a lot of people, and it happens to everyone. It's not to say it's only restricted to one particular gender, one particular
Mhm.
expression. Like literally anyone can be coerced, right? Of course, there is the you we have to think about power relations and how it exists between men and women, and how what statistics show that men
Mhm.
are, you know, always like the larger group of perpetrators, and so that definitely exists. And so a lot of women feel pressured because of that power and control, right? But I feel like, you know, with regards to our culture, our culture is, I mean, it's a beautiful thing and it's also a dangerous thing, you know. Like at times somebody was saying, you know, catcalling is our culture, like that's normal, real normal thing. And it became very apparent to me some time ago that it is not. This is not like Trinidad doesn't own catcalling. There was something that I had to speak at, and the person was based in Cape Town, and they were sharing the same kind of like it was literally the same kind of issue, right? With regards to like men catcalling women, and when they don't respond, they cursing them or they following them, you know. And that's like there was an article or a study that was written that said that street harassment is a gateway to other types of violence, because when a man is catcalling a woman and she rejects him, there are times where they get violent. So they either curse her out, or throw insults or even follow her, you
Mhm.
know. I had like friends in the States who literally were physically assaulted from turning a guy down from traveling in public transport. And so there are different things that are normalized, and even like with regards to consent, I don't think we have too much of a consent culture. And so when it comes to like going to affect or playing mass, you know, there's a song that I find real catchy, and it's the thing too with like music, eh? It's so catchy, and well, I love words, so you know how to listen to the lyrics and thing. And it's this song called Dotty by Dev.
Mhm.
And in this song, he start off, you know, like he's like, what kind of strippiness is this girl? And then he's like, what you feel like come here for? You just want to stand up and pose and thing, and tell her to like whine her.
And
And there's this
that's an old
uh,
adage. That's an old adage in Calypso straight. You know.
right, okay, well, yeah,
Straight down.
but it's like, you know, and even this song, there's a song about like stush in the bush. That's the song?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And where it's like, okay, if a woman goes to a party, it means that she has to whine on a guy, and if she doesn't whine on the guy, it's like, so you come to a party for what? Mind the woman spend she $350 or $700 to come to a fete to enjoy the fete, not
Mhm.
to, you know, have everybody whine up on her. And so those things have been so normalized. I mean, it's in our music too. Um, and
Because
so
I mean,
uh-huh,
from a young person, that was
yeah,
my intention. It was bizarre to see how much scrub you could get.
right,
So your aim is to go and ease yourself, and again, we don't have a we call it consent culture, as I say,
yeah,
and So now going forward, shouldn't we be tackling this issue from the womb per se?
Mm,
Womb to the,
yeah.
well, you know what they say, womb to the tomb. We should be tackling this issue on a cultural perspective, or where we should be taking this to as young as persons. I mean, I think a lot of times we shouted at adults here,
Yeah.
and so what's plans for like feminist or what are associations you belong to,
Hmm.
regards to tackling this problem from as young as possible.
Yeah.
Now, and
So, mhm,
everybody my age is as willing to change or learn.
yeah,
Um,
that's
but
very true.
at the same time, we sort of again stuff from 2010 that or 2008 where a man might have done something, but he's changed now or learned this is not how he engages women, and now he has to answer for stuff. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not saying in the level where it's like rape
Right.
or
Yeah.
I'm making a branch here. I'm not talking about, you know,
Hmm.
like I said, like, and the comedian, what's his name, boy, Indian comedian. Anyway, he had an issue where, he made cried this girl out on a date and he made some wrong play, I guess, but it wasn't nothing serious.
Hmm.
But he's been called to cancel. I mean, it never happened, but that cancel culture, in a sense,
Right.
how
Hmm.
do we deal with stuff like that? But
Yeah.
again, is a lot of different facets, and I think all over the place here. Um, but yeah, I saw a tweet from you here. Sexual assault in all its forms is not just a traumatic event; it's also everything that comes after.
Hmm.
It goes through the five stages of grief, nonstop in it's losing friends, it's trauma not being believed, it's nightmares, it's panic attacks, it's loss of trust. Can you explain that tweet in essence?
Yeah. So I think people think sexual assault is something that happens in a vacuum where it's like, okay, the assault, um, if it's reported, and so the perpetrator experiences whatever consequences, and then you just move on, right?
Mhm.
But in Trinidad and Tobago, and I've recognized that it happens all over the world, you know. Persons who report or speak out about sexual assault aren't initially believed, not always, at least by everyone.
Not
There's
by
a critique
everyone.
that they have to, yeah, there's a critique that they have to go under. There's the victim blaming. There is the gaslighting, where it's literally making you question yourself, like, did this really happen? And so you have to now find ways to like figure out, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe I'm going off. Maybe like I am the wrong person, and especially when you have people around you that's continuously repeating that, there's also, losing friendships. There's also
Mhm.
losing people that you look up to because they might not believe you, because it's always harder when the person who's the perpetrator
Yeah.
is like popular or is somehow in your circle, because of course people are, hi Jaysha, yeah, people are, like quicker to believe the person, especially if they're really like well known. So quick segue, well, not segue, but just a reference. I watched this movie called Citation someday. It's on Netflix. It's based on a true story, and it's about this really, really successful, well-known person
Mhm.
who ended up like raping one of his students, right? And then when they went to the university, because she's brilliant too. When they went to the university and she reported it, and there was this whole university council thing before it goes to like legal steps. And one of the questions they were asking her, like, do you expect us to believe that a man of his caliber assaulted you? Why would he do that? He literally has like everything, you know? And so there's that kind of question that you have to face. And so a lot of people tend to be silent. It eats them up until years later when they finally gain the confidence to come and speak out about something, because they're like, it's either they either go to the grave with it, or
Mhm.
they find the strength some way to speak up about it. And then when you do that, there's also public opinion, which is a lot. Like, it's not easy for somebody to say, hey, I was assaulted and this is my story, because there's all those things that comes into play.
somebody told me the other day there's a problem. There's a reason why a lot of women don't go to the police
Yeah.
with rape
Mm-hmm.
charges, because the questions they are asked when they reach the police station.
Yeah.
Like somebody told them that they had an experience where they went to the police station and the police asked them, um, "So he raped you? Did you enjoy it?" Or some kind of odd,
Wow.
strange question, like he had sex with him. Did you enjoy it? And that kind of question. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, it was kind of turned off by the question.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, there's a lot. There's this issue. I have had people come to me with different. I've met a lot of women in my life that has told me that they got raped, or um, and I was kind of the first person they told.
Right.
They never tell anybody, or they told someone and they didn't listen, and they didn't believe them, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the cause is necessary. I think there's a lot of gray area, or in the sense of not the sexual assault part,
Mm-hmm.
rape culture in itself. There's a lot of
Yeah.
gray area in the rape culture itself. But I think the work that all they're doing is commendable. And there's another tweet. I pulled some tweets.
And I tweet a lot, so let me see which one.
Yeah, I hate how media houses sensationalizes sexual abuse from the headlines to the structure of the article.
Mm-hmm.
Upsetting.
Yeah.
I mean, this last case here, um,
Yeah, boy.
with um, was really, really, to me, in my opinion, very politicized
Yeah, yeah.
on
Mm-hmm.
all factions, from not wanting to engage because it looks political. Even that and all is a political statement.
Mm.
Um, to people, you know. Now, mind you, I don't mind the problem with mass protests and that kind of thing. It's fine. It's just how it's perceived.
Right.
Why her, and all the kind of dumb questions. Why her and
Mm.
why no, um and the people who usually say, well, wam to mantra, wam to them kind of people who
Mm.
didn't do anything in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go to one of the vigils or protests.
Right.
But what does it take for you to I also saw status from you about you being tired at the time. You also have to deal with the loss of it. The loss.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the one to organize a protest.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always have to be the one.
Yeah.
What do you say to the political part of it and the people who usually um, put blame on woman or whatever?
Yeah. I feel and I remember that tweet because I did a whole thread because it was a weird time. Because okay, so everyone, I think most people at that time who reached out to me knew my brother died, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the DMs, it was so weird because they coupled it with like, oh, my condolences. By the way, like, what are you going to do about this? And I like, it was so weird. Like I felt like you clearly don't see me as a human. That this is something huge that I'm mourning, but expecting that, yeah, Ashley, organize a protest now, go down but Riverside and get a permit and have this protest now. And I feel like people tend to wait for others to do things.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet because right now in Jamaica they have they're fighting for abortion rights, and someone tweeted there, and I found it to be so resonating that we as a people tend to put our power in other people's hands. And so we're not going to act until Womantra acts or some other body acts because, yeah, well, them how do it because if they're not doing it, then I don't do anything. But at the end of the day, all of these issues are human issues. We are
Mm-hmm.
all affected in some way. We all had to take public transport at some point, some more than others. We all have to live here in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of us are stuck here. And I mean, the world is also trash. So it's not like if you say, not even Trinidad, like anywhere you go is mess. And so it's like, it's like you can't continue putting power into others' hands. You can't wait until somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to stand up for you." If you are able to stand up, stand up. And then there's also the side where they don't support. The same people who are calling for action are the last to show up to the action, are the last to sign on, are the last to share a post and stuff like that. They just like they want to do the calling out. They want to do like, so where you going? But they're not the ones to actually like contribute or put in, any kind of thing. Because activists get tired. Activism is not a 9 to 5. It's literally something you live with. You can't just say, wow, boy, his family's struggling. Wow, feminicides are going up, and then go to sleep. That's in your head for the entire night, thinking, how can I make a difference? It's not switch. You can't just say, yeah, boy, I'm taking a break today. So what was the other question you had asked? I think it has slipped me.
The politics.
Yeah. And that's real heartbreaking. I went to a vigil and I swear I was at a rally. I had to leave. I couldn't believe it because it's like people are very vulnerable right now and people want change. Whatever change looks like. I think people even calling for change don't even know what the change looks like. They just want change. And there are people like politicians are they are actors, they are manipulators, who know exactly how to manipulate and use people's vulnerability for their gain. And so it was very heartbreaking to see that happening. There's also there's an article I read today in the Newsday, written by Dr. Hossein, about everything that has happened, and there was an important part about how the media plays a big part in shaping the perfect victim in the way they write the articles, in the way that they interview persons, in the questions that they ask. I say that because, and it's not me saying, because I assume when the thing that happened with the whole stuff that I was involved in last year, I got a list of questions from a media house that is well known for writing these articles in a very awful way. And the questions they're asking me, I I could not believe it. Of course, I never responded, and the article was never published because what you gonna write on if you have no answers? But it was all about wanting a juicy story. And so there was recently an article that was published about the Balkan guy, and the title of it was really, it's like, you want to click on it to read the story, but the story, there was no trigger warning. Right? It was awful. It was awful, and people were triggered. Like, there are people who were not fine, because imagine you want to stay abreast on what's happening. You click on an article, and here you have these gory details. There was no, like, literally nothing that indicated that this article was going to be an unfolding of that. But I strayed from the political thing. It's an awful thing, man, and I feel like activism in itself is political in some way, because at the end of the day,
you're trying to engage policy change and
exactly.
so you have a lot of politics dealing with having to implement legislation and that kind of thing.
That's
so
right.
You have to involve politicians, but but it's the engagement of politicians within the
boy. They make it about them. It's just disgusting.
Yeah. So I want to move from the topic per se.
Yeah.
But I know you're involved in a lot. Like, you always, to me, every time I see you in some seminar or you're engaging in some form of thing. So let everybody know about the things that Feminism is doing besides gender-based violence and gender equality. Also the stuff about the safe cycle.
Yes.
So, and I talked to you about that already.
Yeah.
Me having now to engage in my daughter now seeing her prayer for the first time and that kind of thing. So I see you're doing work. It's called, let me be free period poverty. Is it period poverty?
Yeah, period poverty.
Period poverty.
Yeah.
Period poverty, yes. So, like, talk to me about, explain to people what period poverty is, one, and what the work you're doing with Safe Cycle.
Yeah. So period poverty is really the lack of access to period products and health services that really help with, like, alleviating the issues when it comes to like a menstrual cycle. Because there are a lot of complications with menstruating, right? There's like a lot of different kind of medical conditions that either delay your period, stop it altogether, or just make it a really painful and awful experience that, you know, affects like if you want to have a child and stuff like that. And so Safe Cycle, last year, one of our team members was like, we should do something with regards to ending period poverty. We didn't have it fleshed out then. But as time went by, we developed the plan and we developed what this project was going to look like. And then we came up with the name Safe Cycle. And so it's a 3-part project. Now, period poverty can't be ended by simply saying, hey, I'm going to give you a box of pads, right? Because what happens when a box of pads is finished? Are you going to continue giving a box of pads? That's not sustainable, right? And so there's a lot of countries across the world, well, notably 2 of them, Scotland and New Zealand, who recently both passed like bills where like period products. In Scotland, it was free, like completely free, and in New Zealand, it's free for school children, right? And so the Safe Cycle project is an ending period poverty campaign. Our goal really is to try to push for a policy implementation where period products is either it's free to schools, or the Ministry of Social Development issues these period cards, which will be the similar process to a food card. It's the same concept, right? Where they put money in it monthly, and you could only purchase period products. If it's a menstrual cup, which is more sustainable, or a reusable pad, which is also sustainable, or the regular pads. But it's really bridging that gap between persons who can't afford the pads and then leading like a regular lifestyle. Because when you don't have adequate period products, like it keeps you back literally in everything, because you have to stay home. You can't function, especially if you don't have the money to go pay a gynecologist, which is really costly, right? You don't ever, like, sometimes people like have real painful periods to the point where they cannot function. And you might think, oh well, this is how it's supposed to be. When in real life, you probably have a medical condition that needs urgent attention. And so what this campaign is really to do is to provide education on the issue, with raising awareness and stuff. And so it's been strictly on social media because of the pandemic. And so we've been having, well, issuing, of course, the regular graphics, but also having these live conversations on Instagram. Last season, which was last year, we featured like experts in the field. So persons who work within dealing with persons with menstrual cycles. So it's either they are service providers through providing the menstrual products, or they're a gynecologist, right? And then this season now, which is started this year, we're dealing with the experiences of people, so that that human feel where you realize, oh my god, this person that I know is suffering with this, and this is the plan that they think. So last week we spoke about endometriosis, which is a condition where there are cells that are supposed to be in the uterus that grows outside of the uterus, which makes it painful, and you could become infertile. It's just a lot to deal with, right? And that can only be detectable if you do, like, 100% detectable if you do a surgery, which costs money, but you have to go to a doctor to see it. Public healthcare, they really, and so a gynecologist, you might spend like $400 for a session, for a consultation. It's a lot of money. The second phase of this project is the distribution/survey. So we initially planned to do 100 period boxes, right? Period kits. But we got some donations and we had more money. So, and then the demand was actually high. So we ended up doing 120 boxes, and we're in the process of delivering. And so we launched the survey, which at the end of it, we want to generate a report, a study that is accessible to everyone. But at the end of that, we want to send that report and that study to the Office of the Prime Minister, to the Ministry of Social Development, to say, hey, you probably don't have your eyes and ears on the ground to understand period poverty, but look, we did all the work for you. Here is the research.
Here's the study. So
Yeah,
you
here's
don't have
the study.
to, you don't have
Yes.
to spend money on a study.
Yeah, you don't have to. We did
And
it. Yeah. So please implement this. Please do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so we launched that the 15th of February, and so far there are like 400 responses. The goal is to try to make it to 500, but the response has been so great with people taking the survey because it really assesses whether or not persons experience period poverty, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so another part of that project is where we pay. We can't do all the 120, but persons who experience really awful period pains or have really irregular periods, we're going to pay for them to see a gynecologist, at least have a consultation,
Mm-hmm.
so they can like have that access. So that's Safe Cycle in a nutshell.
That's very important work.
Hmm.
And some it's things that we never really think about it. Like,
Yeah.
that people have to do this every month. Like,
Hmm.
there's a sector of the society that has to do this.
Every month, some
And
people
from
more
my
than once a
and
month.
from my experience, everybody experience is different. Because
Yeah.
I remember my little sister. She experienced a lot of pain. Like, I remember her being stealing from school and that kind of different partners I've been with. They
Yeah.
have totally different experiences. Some periods last 3 days, some last 5, and so much different um, experiences over the board now. So
Yeah.
this is one thing that happens, um, and we have this big taboo about men not talking about it because it's this thing. And I mean, I think we have come a long way from it was back then, but
Yeah, for sure.
the work is still being needed. And I mean, give thanks for engaging and doing all the stuff that you're doing, man. That is kudos to you, Jed, because I mean, not everybody have, again, there's a lot to deal with,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um, and the other thing that you're involved in epilepsy, because they spoke
Hmm.
about seizures earlier on, and
Yeah.
the work that you're doing regarding epilepsy.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think this year makes it eight. I can't count properly. 2013 was when my diagnosis. So yes, 8 years.
Mm.
So that in itself has been a journey on its own. Like I feel like I'm a time bomb because March actually would make it a year that I'm seizure free, which is like, I'm holding my breath, trying my best not to think about it too much because every time I think about it too much, like I seize. So that's just forget I said that part. Knocks on wood. But really and truly, there's this organization called the Seizure Awareness Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago, and they do like a really really important work when it comes to epilepsy. I think it's the president is Nicole Vanderpool, and her son is also
Epileptic, right?
epileptic. Yeah.
That's the woman we met. I met her
Yes,
through,
on her reading.
yeah, at your
Yeah,
reading.
yeah. And so there's a lot of time. Like times I run out of medication because there was a shortage in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And you can call Nicole, and then she will like contact whoever and try to figure out the status of it. And so it's something that a lot of people don't understand or know about, even though there are like 46,000 people in Trinidad and Tobago that are epileptic. You know, um, but it's a really really interesting thing because there are so many. It varies to different persons, right? And so, for example, my seizures are triggered through many things, but one in particular, like I have photosensitive epilepsy. So you see, I'm strobe lights in parties. I cannot, like, I will like seize. Sometimes I have to wear like these special shades or like move in the party to try not to thing it. Well, that's before COVID. Um, but I tried my best, like through my writing and through like my platform to speak about it because it's not something that you can commonly just hear. It's not a conversation you're gonna just. It's quite niche, which is weird because the chances of you knowing somebody who possibly experienced a seizure at least once is quite high. All of us can experience a seizure at some point in our lives because we all have brains,
Mm-hmm.
and so whilst having one seizure doesn't mean you're epileptic, it still means that you had a seizure. And so, yeah.
So as a former EMT who had to
Yeah.
deal with like every day we had to deal with a seizure call, or
Wow.
not every day, well, if not every day, every other day, with
Yeah.
a call for seizures. And a lot of people still believe in the put a nutmeg in the mouth or put a spoon in the mouth. And
Yes.
even up to the year before, I was working somewhere and somebody had a seizure on the compound. And I rushed to their aid, and somebody was like, yeah, put a spoon in the mouth thing. And I was like, yo, no, we're not doing that in 2020. We're not doing that in 2021. And I mean, there's a lot of public old wives' tales that, people
Yeah.
still. And so there's a lot of work to do. So on a lighter note, we're listening to these days. I know you believe in the zest, So what kind of music do you listen to?
I actually, I'm actually listening to Last Dance all these days. I'm listening to Chica. Oh my god, like Chica. Is it Chica or Chica boy? Chica. They have a album called Industry Games. And then if you can see my screen, I'm gonna show you my screen.
Okay. I think I seen the album there somewhere.
Yes. Chica is Chica could well write. As Chica could write. She could write.
Alright, I could take it in.
Yes. And so good. Like she raps and like sings is just so good. And she's really young too. I actually found her from watching a show called Power on Netflix, a movie. And I was like, oh, this soundtrack is real cool. And then I found it. So I'm listening to her like more than any other music these days.
All right, cool. So what else do you engage in outside of your activism?
Like for fun?
Fun. What do you do for fun? Like
I read. I actually started a bookstagram called Reading Jamet. And I'm a slow reader. So this car read all kind of 100 books a year. My goal is 12. So one per month. And I have been behind on that because this year I'm actually graduating finally. So
what are you studying?
English language and literature.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah. At yeah, boy. People always assume like every time I tell them there's no exactly. It's like, oh yeah, makes sense. But yeah. So I'm graduating this semester. Finally, it's been that place that school I go to was very frustrating. Finally graduating, and so I'm hoping to have more free time to do more things, like fun things now. Besides reading, I
mean, reading is fun, I guess, for you. I mean, there's not much we could do in this space.
Exactly. You can't go anywhere really and truly. You just had to find,
I'll double back now. Now that I'm studying it, like regards to COVID, are seizure patients more vulnerable to or susceptible to like the virus because of are they like list?
I think it varies. Like for example, if I know if I get COVID, that will really mash me up because I have asthma too. And usually when I wheeze, yeah, boy, it's a hot mess. When I wheeze, it triggers my seizures. And like there's a point in time, like the last few seizures that I had, the doctors were telling me like, it lasts real long, which is called this thing called status epilepticus. And usually them long thing, it could kill you now. And so the more intense my asthma attack is, the more intense the seizure is. And so that's one thing I'm not playing with with regards to COVID. But I think for everybody, depending on their triggers, getting the virus could mess them up, But then also too, the way how it affects your body, when your body is run down, you can seize if you're epileptic.
Okay.
So, yes.
Well, it was a nice conversation.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I mean, we speak, from time to time.
Yes.
Not so much about the stuff that you're doing, but
yeah,
it's always cool linking. I mean, and again, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. And on just trying to change people's mindset on how we deal with women. I didn't say the dreaded word female for this hour, so
I am proud of you. so glad. Oh my God. If you, oh my God.
Well,
Amen.
I nearly made it. I nearly made it. Coming on to the end. Yeah, I mean, so it was cool talking to him and Ashley.
Likewise, and thank you for this platform too.
Yeah.
Really,
I
really.
mean, remember I spoke to you about doing last season, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
because it happened with Andrea and stuff. I decided no, I had it in mind to talk to you since
Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah.
last year. So I mean, the timing this was kind of correct in the sense like I wanted to impart some information to people, and you are the best person I think to do that.
Mm.
As regards to the kind of work that's going on, because a lot of people believe that nothing is going on outside of when something happens.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so it's good to let people know that to have people that working. And anything that you need me for, you could always call me, and um, any way I could help, I am willing to do so. But
Yeah.
my hands sometimes are. I think my job. I think my thing is to deal with it on a personal level. That's
Mm.
my form of activism, I guess.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's important.
try and change the mindset, not only myself, but the people around me and that kind of thing. And, um, you know, so even though people mightn't see me out in the streets,
You're doing the work, and
I'm doing
that is the work too.
so it's not always necessary. Well,
To be
to
front and
be
center.
front and center.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes.
So,
Thank you so much.
toodles.
Bye bye.
So all your handles, I mean, the handles for Feminine and whatever.
Yeah, it's at Feminine on everything.
So it's Feminine.
FEM.
Like
Yeah.
feminine minute.
Feminine. Yeah, feminist minute is actually, it actually means feminist minute.
Right.
But yeah, feminine. It's FEMINI.
Okay, cool. On Instagram and everywhere else.
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much for those who's listening and who came out and engaged in this space. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Everybody enjoy all the evening. Bye. Bye.